Hey guys, welcome back. This is Steph from Sweet Savory and Steph. Today we're making my healthier chicken pot pie. God,
Failing.
I don't know. Too much coffee.
I keep like stumbling over my words.
I know healthy means different things to different people. My version of a lightened up chicken pot pie includes ingredients that are just tweaked slightly to make this recipe slightly lightened up but still taste as delicious as the original version. It is WW macro and calorie friendly, but it doesn't taste like it. All right, so we're going to get started on this healthier chicken pot pie recipe. The first thing we're going to do is actually cook our chicken. Now, you can completely omit this step if you have rotisserie chicken or you have leftover chicken that you made from another meal. But I'm going to show you this whole recipe from start to finish. So I have 2 chicken breasts, and I'm just going to add some olive oil spray. Now, I use olive oil that I actually put in this sprayer. It just is so convenient and better than buying the olive oil sprays in the store. It's more cost effective. So we're going to do olive oil spray, and then I don't measure, but just a nice sprinkle of kosher salt and fresh cracked pepper right on top. And this is just like a basic roasted chicken because we're going to put it in the oven at 450 until it's cooked through. I got my tongs, and we're just going to flip them and do the same thing to the other side. And our oven is preheating as we speak. This is also how I cook my chicken for chicken salads. It's just really easy, and it's just like a very basic flavor, so you can kind of add it to any dish. Okay. All right, so that's the chicken. We're going to pop it in the oven at 450, about 25 minutes, depending on the thickness of your chicken. If you have a thermometer, it's best to use it here just to make sure it's cooked through to 165. So while the chicken's in the oven, I'm going to go through the remaining ingredients with you and show you what we're going to do to make the best pot pie ever. So starting over here, we have whole milk, which might be surprising to some of you. I always use like almond milk or skim milk with my recipes, but for this, we're just using a little bit of whole milk, and I really find that it makes a difference with the creaminess factor. When you're eating pot pie, you want it to be thick, luscious, creamy. So we have whole milk as well as a combination of flour, which is going to help thicken everything. We're going to build a roux using the flour, and I'll show you how to do that. And we also have reduced fat cream cheese. This is going to be stirred in at the end, and it really bumps up the creaminess factor. We also have a collection of spices here. These are a lot of pantry staples. We have onion powder, garlic powder, kosher salt. We have poultry seasoning, which I think gives it that really traditional pot pie flavor that you're looking for. And we also have nutmeg. And that might be surprising to some of you, but whenever you're making a creamy sauce, I always like to add a little bit of nutmeg. It kind of like rounds out the flavor. That's something I learned on the Food Network as an avid viewer. We also have some frozen peas. I feel like everyone has these in their freezer. All-purpose flour, and we have our crescent rolls. So I'm taking a shortcut from the store here. I personally find that this is what makes this recipe so great because it's that buttery, flaky crust right on top. So we're using that. And we also have some reduced sodium chicken broth. So we're going to build the broth and the sauce using the reduced sodium chicken broth just because we can then control the sodium factor on our own by adding our own salt and spices. All right, so I'm going to get started cutting up these veggies. This is the perfect time to do it while the chicken is cooking. Again, you could take a shortcut from the store, grab a rotisserie chicken. This recipe would be even easier with a shortcut like that. So I'm just going to peel my carrots, and you also could buy the pre-cut mirepoix that they sell in the produce section. I do that quite often. It's definitely not cost effective to do that, but sometimes you just need quick and easy. So I am not hating on anyone who wants to do that. And there's no like science to this. It does not have to be exact. I do like doing the pieces more on the small side, like a dice or bite-sized pieces, just because you want to be able to spoon the pot pie and not have these like huge pieces of carrot. I'm just chopping up the celery. Again, a really rough chop. And now onto the onion. Cut off both ends like so. Lay it on its flat side. Cut it in half. That makes it really easy to peel the skin off. Okay. And we're just going to chop this up and our veggies will be prepped. Okay. So those are the veggies. I'm going to throw all this garbage out, set these aside, and we can start building the pot pie in the skillet on the stove. That onion killed me. All right, so those are the veggies. Now I'm gonna get working on the stovetop. We're gonna start sauteing the veggies up, building the sauce while we wait for the chicken to finish cooking. When the chicken's done, all we need to do is shred it up, and it's one of the last pieces when we fold it into the sauce that we build on the stovetop. This is the pan that we're gonna use. You want something that's pretty big with high sides because there's gonna be a lot of stuff going into this pan. All right, so there is our light butter. As the pan starts to come to temperature, we can see it's gonna start melting. And let's get those chopped veggies in. Now we're going to add in our carrots, celery, and onion. These are going to cook for about 5 to 6 minutes. You just want them to start to get nice and tender and slightly caramelized before we start adding the spices in. All right, I'm going to check on our chicken because it's been there for a little bit now. Like I said, get a meat thermometer. This one's slowly creeping up to 165. I'm going to give them a few more minutes while we finish our pan sauce. All right, we're going to add our spices now. Plus that in. And this is when it starts to really smell like chicken pot pie. So those are nicely coated now. We're going to add some more olive oil spray to the pan before we add our flour. This is just to moisten the vegetables a little bit more instead of using tons of more butter. And these are kind of the little shortcuts and stuff that I use to make this lightened up without really compromising the flavor. All right, so we just put our flour on top of the veggies. And you just want to toss them around. You want the flour to start to cook a little bit from the warmth of the pan. You don't want that raw flour taste. And you want to make sure that all of the veggies are evenly coated with that flour. This is what we're working with right now. So now we're going to add our chicken stock, and that's what's going to make this into a really nice and thick sauce. So we have 1.5 cups of chicken broth. You just want to work this around a little bit. And you'll see after just a couple of minutes, this is going to thicken up really nicely, simply from the use of that flour. You can already see it happening. If you just pull it away a little bit, you'll see how it's really thickening up nice. I have my other ingredients ready to go here to finish making this into an actual creamy sauce. We're just going to wait a couple of seconds for this to finish thickening up. At this point, you also can taste for seasoning because the remaining ingredients don't contain any salt. You know, we just have the creamy elements left. So if you want to taste this and see if you want to add any additional seasonings, you can do that at this point. In my opinion, it's perfect as is. And you can see how nice and thick that's becoming. See that? That's all from the flour. Okay, so at this point, I think we're ready. I'm going to add in our whole milk and our 3 ounces of the reduced fat cream cheese. Now, this is going to take a little bit of working to get it melted, but if you just kind of stick it with your wooden spoon and kind of like drag it around, it will start to melt throughout the dish. And you can already see how delicious and creamy this is getting from those 2 ingredients. So good. I'm going to pull our chicken out too in the meantime and get that nice and cut up so that we could really complete this dish. All right, so that is almost broken down. You can see. You don't even need to use a whisk or anything. Just keep using your wooden spoon just to really work it around the pan. See that? Make sure you scrape down the sides. You don't want that milk to burn on the side of the pan. All right, at this point, I'm going to add in our pinch of nutmeg. Work that in. You can also add your frozen peas at this point. To defrost them or anything, you can just add them right in. Some people also like corn in their pot pie. At this point, you could add in frozen corn if your family likes that. So right now, this is the sauce. This is ready to go, and I'm going to turn the heat off of the burner and let this chill out because I need to get my chicken out of the oven and get that prepped to add into the sauce. So when you use a baking dish like this instead of a sheet tray, you can actually use this dish as the vessel where you cut and shred the chicken instead of dirtying another bowl. So when it comes to the chicken, you can either dice it up or you can shred it up. So you can use 2 forks. Sometimes it's easier to start off with the knife depending on how the texture is of your chicken, but this seems to be breaking apart really easily. Now, see what's happening there is those juices from the chicken are going in too, and that's like just bonus flavor. You do not want to discard that. All right, so we're stirring the chicken in. Now you can turn the heat back on, just like medium high, just to let all the flavors combine. So I'm going to show you guys how I'm serving the pot pie today. I have individual ramekins for individual serving sizes. So these are like 1 serving each. And then I have this one, which is more like 2 servings. This recipe makes 4 servings. So I think I'm going to do 2 servings here and then 2 individuals. Normally I would do a big baking dish and serve it as is, but I'm finding that the individual serving size makes it even easier to portion out if you are tracking your calories, macros, or WW points. So that's just a little tip. Okay, I think our pot pie is ready to come off the stove and get into our ramekins. Oh my goodness. It's like bubbly and delicious. See that? Everything is nice and incorporated together. Before I start transferring these into the ramekins, I'm going to set my oven temp down to 375. That is the temperature I want to actually bake the pot pies at. And I am leaving this a little bit on the wet side because when it cooks, you don't want it to fully dry out. But you really can cook this to your desired consistency. All right, so these are ready. We're going to add that crust to the top. So this is like no frills, but this is so delicious. This is a reduced fat crescent roll. The macros are just slightly different. It's not like a huge difference, but it's just what the recipe calls for. And so that's what I like to use. You only need half of this sheet. The other half, what I'll do sometimes is just make the crescent rolls on the side, for the kids or whatever. So we're just going to unroll the dough. Now, if you were making one big baking dish, you would just lay it right on top. Since I'm doing individuals, each serving is going to have one crescent roll. So these smaller ones are going to get the one crescent roll. This is going to puff up in the oven too, so don't worry about that. And then the double portion is going to get 2 crescent rolls. This one came out a little crappy. I think I'm going to replace that one. This looks like a better one. Okay. Just stretch it across as much as you can to cover the surface area, like so. And now a little finishing touch, I add more olive oil spray right on top. And then just a little pinch of kosher salt. It makes the topping really nice and flavorful. So these are prepped and we're going to pop them in the oven. So I just pulled the chicken pot pie out of the oven. This is the larger one. I have the 2 individuals back there, but the ends are bubbly and delicious. And then the crescent dough top is nice and firm, but still flaky. It smells phenomenal. Oh my gosh. You can see that delicious top layer of the crescent dough, and then the inside is warm and everything is cooked together. Oh, it smells so good. I need to try this. I'm going to get a little bit of everything on my fork. Tastes like a hug in a bowl. Comfort food at its finest. Lightened up just a touch. Something you could feed to your whole family while also sticking to your own health and wellness goals. If you want the recipe for this lightened up chicken pot pie, head to sweetsavoryandstuff.com. I will link the recipe in the caption below. You can also find 400 plus lightened up recipes on my website.